Well, Speediball is back on. Game 2 in this series in Chicago between the Bees and Blues. Game 1 is already on our YouTube channel. Kenyon there, starting behind the cans as you're supposed to start every game and after every score. That's called a free and clear in this game. And going down the field, and you see Martin turn it over right to Oscar. But Oscar right back to Kenyon. This sport, as you can see, has a lot of throwing and a lot of running. And you're gonna see dribbling, so you're probably like, what is this? Well, thanks for asking. I did invent the sport, so I feel I can explain it well. It's built on the core skills of speed, quickness, creativity, and versatility, among many other things like smarts, stamina, style, strength, stuff like that. A bunch of different aspects of other sports, but it's not just a slapping together of those sports, willy-nilly just to make a cool sport. It is its own unique sport that has its own personality, I guess you could say. And right there, Darian scores for 2. That is a liner. I don't think you need to see that again. That was pretty clear and obvious. No doubt about that. When you go across the line with the ball, that's 2 points. You have to establish possession on one side and then still have possession with it with at least 2 feet down and or the ball down on the other side for it to be considered a liner, which is 2 points. And right there, he did that. That's 2 points. The Blues lead it. On the other end, you see the Bees will try to answer and respond. And they're really spreading them out here. This is pretty good because it forces the Blues to have to defend a wide area, which should make it way easier. As you can see right now, the cans are wide open, and Oscar just made a great save on the back line. But then right here, Kenyon with the interception. Oh man, that's like a pick 6 in football. Turns around, scores. What a fantastic play. We definitely got to see that again. As you can see, the Bees have been thrown around at pretty much the same angles all game without much movement. So Kenyon is easily able to anticipate the route like a DB in football. He gets it, he's racing away for the score. That's all she wrote. And it's 4-0. The Blues are jumping all over the Bees. What are they gonna do to respond after that? And that is an interception. That's what that is counted as. So it's the same sport that you can shoot for a point like basketball and have an interception like football. Do you know of any other sport like that? I really don't. So that's why you should really love Speediball. And right there, that was a tag and a turnover. So once again, that's another free and clear. And free and clear just means, in basic simple terms, he gets the player that's restarting with the ball gets the ball clear of the opponent, so he's not in danger of being tagged. He's allowed to start by running, throwing, or dribbling, and that turnover came courtesy of that player running with the ball without dribbling, so that is a tag and a turnover. As you can see, players can go through the goals between the 2 cans without the ball, obviously, but they just can't score in this version of Speediball. At least in this version of Speediball. Now, when there's more players and on a bigger field, there's actually going to be rules that at least the attacking team cannot cross between the cans unless they have the ball, or that's going to be an immediate turnover, because it's a huge advantage to be able to go through the cans like that. And obviously, with more players, we don't want it to get all crowded around there and just become a super stuck, stagnant game. We want it to remain fast, free, and flowing. So, but here, because it is in fact just 3v3, and right there, back there, that was a tag. You might have not been able to see it well. So we've had yet another one, and I want to clarify what I said earlier. You can obviously run without dribbling, and right here, he almost scored, but he tried to hop through, and then, maybe it's sort of like those guys in football where they're at the goal line and they fumble it right there at the 1 yard line. Well, yeah, if he had just went through, it seems he would have scored right there. They would have had a 6-0 lead. Instead, they don't. But anyways, obviously you're allowed to run with the ball as long as you catch it in the air or on a free and clear. You're allowed to run without dribbling. But if you're touched while doing so, it is a turnover to the opponent. So just to clarify that. You can see this sport is really about angles, attacking at different points at really what is an island there with the two cans from every direction just to get that little advantage to score on the defense. And here's a breakout the other way, and then you see that Darian chases him down and keeps it at 4-0 with the tag. Whoa, let's see that again. It all begins with a ball that appears to be picked up off the ground by Harris near his own goal line, so he can't run with it. Has to throw it to Davis, but right there is Darian tracking back, makes the tag, and we've still got a 4-0 game. The Bees have got to find a way to break through. They can't seem to do it on a breakaway or when they're setting up the offense. How will they do it? Anyways, here come the Bees. I mean the Blues. My bad. And Martin just scored a cannon so fast there that we missed it. So let's go back and look at it. There we see him on the right side. He squares up and shoots it, and that's worth 1 point. So far, we'd only seen 2-point liners in this game, and there's a 1-point canner, which is of course worth a little less than a liner because it's, a little bit easier to shoot into the can, and we want the action to be that players are trying to get across the line. That provides the most excitement, so that should be the greatest incentive. And right here we see a tag right there. He caught it and then was tagged right as he went to the goal line. So that's a save right there on the goal line. Just like in soccer or hockey or lacrosse or any sport where you have a goalkeeper, there is saves in this sport because there is a goalkeeper now. Because there's only 3 players, there's not all the time a person that's stationary back there just defending the line in cans. But when there's more players, like especially when there's 5 players and above, there should always be someone in between the sticks, as it were, in between the 2 cans, defending the line in cans, and that's going to be their primary position. That's going to be their primary job, and they're the only ones that get to stay on one side of the field, way back on their own side of the field when the ball is on the other side, when it's on a huge 120-yard football field. So that's like the goalkeeper privilege. If there is a point scored in a game like this, which I'm looking at a game where it would be like 10v10 and above, right? So this is like, like a full action film type of game, then after the game, there's actually like in football, how there's like extra points, right? That can be scored either 2 or 1 after a touchdown. Well, in this sport, there's also extra points that can be scored after you score a liner in games that have that many players, because most likely the scoring would be down. So, it's not quite as fast paced. So, it wouldn't be like, too much for this to happen. So after a score, the player that scored, or a designated scorer, sort of like a designated penalty taker in soccer, can either shoot into one of the baskets from a designed distance for the extra point, or they could, as you can see, a tag right there at the right there. They're getting the tags right now. It's like the Blues are getting the scores and the Bees are getting the tagged. So that's unfortunate for them. So anyways, after a score, you can either shoot it into the basket, or there could be a one-on-one game played, like for 20-30 seconds, sort of like a shootout in hockey, where you're going just one-on-one with the goalkeeper, the player that scored, or the designated penalty taker, as it were, to get across the line, right? And that's worth 1 point, so you can add to your total. So say you score a 2-point liner. If you make that 2-point liner, then you get an opportunity to line up against the opposing line keeper to try to score across the line for another extra point, or shoot it into the basket like a free throw in basketball, or some combination of both, where if you make the extra point liner after that 2-point liner, that's 3 points. If you make the free throw, then that's 4 points. But if you miss that extra point liner, you don't get the free throw, so you're always stuck at 2. So, but oh, whoa, right there, Kenyon tries to score, but was he tagged? Let's look at that again. He appears from the left, gives a little hesitation move to Harris, then decides to dive for the line. He doesn't get the ball down across the line, so that is not a score. That is, in fact, a save for Harris and the Bees. They really needed that, and it's going the other way. So what do you think of that scoring system? It adds sort of some special teams flair to the sport, like how football has, its own special teams unit for kickoff, extra point, kickoff, punt. Well, for this, it technically has its own. And whoa! Look at that! Look at that! Oh, but they're saying on the other side that Oscar was tagged before he got it to Davis, but Davis scored. Oh, wow! That was a great one-point canner. Let's start this replay highlight off this feed from Oscar. As you can see, Davis gets it, dribbles it, puts him in a spin cycle, shoots and scores from distance. Whoa, that is some nice work. Now, there may have been a tag way back there. The Blues are protesting, saying that right here, when Oscar had the ball, he was tagged before he threw it to Davis. However, we don't have a ref on the field who would be able to settle such disputes in close calls like that. So the Bees are so far behind. You know what? Let's just give it to him. Let's give Davis the canner. That was by far the best canner shot of the game. So it's 5-1. Blues over Bees. And right here at the other end, Darian scores. Or does he? He may have been tagged. It looks like he was in fact tagged right there. As you see, Davis and Harris converge on him before he gets the ball down to the other side. And that's now back-to-back possessions that we've seen the Blues get stopped. So the Bees are definitely doing better. And right there was some camera cut off. We aren't necessarily a pro league yet. So yeah, we have don't have the best cameras. So who knows what happened back over there. But anyways, it's finally the Bees have scored and they've gotten back. They had back-to-back saves there on the goal line, and now they've got the ball again going the other way. And look at this play out high near the middle of the field. What is this? Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson over here playing. So you can see all the skills, offensive and defensive skills that can be brought to this game that are from a whole bunch of other sports. So, I've said before, you don't need to have kids learn a whole new skill sets. Just bring the same skills that they have in football, basketball, soccer to this sport, and speed and quickness, will reign. That's king here in Speediball. Let's see if the Bees can make this close. I mean, they're 1 2-point liner away from making this one. Oh! Whoa! Oh man! Kenyon jumps it again for his second pick of the game! Oh boy! Here on Rewind, we see that the Bees are just sort of standing far from the cans like the first time and just throwing it around. And then I think that Davis expected Harris to cut toward the cans. He didn't. Instead, Kenyon was right there, standing, and that was pretty easy, probably even easier than the first time. But let's go back to that one. As you can see in the first interception there, it's a lot the same. He reads it, takes off, scores. The two look very similar, and that's a big difference in this game. Now back to real time, immediately the other. Oh boy! They score, they answer right back. It's Oscar behind the back flip to Harris, and they finally score 2 for the yellow. You see Oscar running the ball up the field off the free and clear, and he is in fact tagged by Darian before he throws the ball. But wow, what a behind the back pass, and the accuracy there. You might not see a better one in basketball, and for that, even though that was a tag, I'll admit it. I'll be biased here though, I'll admit it. We're gonna give those points to the Bees. They need all the help they can get. It's only 7-3, so sorry Darian, that was indeed a tag, but we just wanted you guys to see the elite level. Oh, and on the other end, it looks like they might have stuffed and stopped them right there for yet another save. And the Bees have been making saves at the goal line through tags, a pretty routine thing here these last few drives by the Blues. As you can see, no mercy points needed there. That was definitely a tag before he got the whole of the ball across the goal line. Now off the quick restart here, probably a little bit too quick as Kenya went in there and interfered. However, Harris was able to clear it over to Oscar, and let's see what they got here. Oh, that is definitely a penalty right there. That is a penalty. He just fouled him bad. Yeah, that's not okay. He just grabs him by the waist there, and he was dribbling. And I want you to notice that he started dribbling. He was running because he caught the ball. Then he starts dribbling so that when he's contacted, it's not a tag. And that's actually what initiates that contact there that draws the penalty, where he gets the free and clear right there in the middle of the field, because he was going to tag him. Then suddenly he has to try to get the ball, and instead he grabs him, initiates a penalty. So that's where you could transition, especially when you catch it. You could transition from just running without dribbling to dribbling, which is not an option when you pick the ball up off the ground like Kenyon does right here. If you wanted to move with it, he would have had to dribble. However, when you catch the ball like Oscar had done back there, now there's more tools in your toolbox. You can run with it, or you can dribble it in tight areas near the defender. And here at the other end, Kenyon scores, and I think that'll put an end to this game. Here are the stats from this game. Like, share, and subscribe.